Thank you so much. May I invite everyone to join us in the sanctuary. Our program will start in a couple of minutes. Everyone in the fellowship hall, please come over here to join us, please. Let's have a word of prayer. Our most gracious, loving Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your Sabbath day. We thank you for the time of worship this morning. And this afternoon, we have another program to give your health message to the people. We know that our body is the temple of God, and we have to take care of our body. Help us to understand what we learn and apply into our daily life. In Jesus' name, amen. Good afternoon. Welcome to this year's 8th health presentation. It is my honor and privilege to introduce to you our speaker, Dr. Dos Santos. Dr. Dos Santos received his doctor in medicine from Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil, in 1978. Master in Public Health, major in Health, Education, and Nutrition, Loma Linda University, in 1994. And Doctor in Public Health in Preventive Care, Loma Linda University, in 2000. Currently, he is professor at the School of Public Health, Loma Linda University, director of the Doctor Public Health Preventive Care Program, Preventive Care Research Group, Loma Linda University. Dr. Dos Santos has held health seminars and health fairs at churches and community throughout the United States and many countries in the world. 40 of his scientific researches have been published. Hiking, playing ukulele, writing, drawing cartoons are some of his many hobbies. We will have a chance to witness those hobbies during his talk this afternoon, and already in this morning we have seen some of his cartoons. Dr. Dos Santos is married to Marina Dos Santos for 46 years, having 3 children and 5 grandchildren. Welcome back to our church, Dr. Dos Santos. The time is yours.
I have to stay here because the lecture is here and then my computer is here. Otherwise, I would go closer to you. Thank you again, Brother David. And you know what is my main hobby? I didn't mention it, is to play with my grandchildren. That's the hobby that I like. And yesterday we went to the creek together, and now, my goodness, what they call the Mill Creek in Menton, and it was something very cool to have the children in the water. So that's what I like to do with my family, but today let's talk about cancer prevention. It's a topic a little bit complicated because in many cases it's a silent disease. You know what a silent disease is? So there is no symptom for most of the time. And when the symptoms come, it might be too late. So that's why we have a lot of things to say about prevention. keep your checkups and keep the things in perspective when you have the risks. So one thing that I advise, and I'm not going to talk about that, but we should have a map of our ancestors to see what they had. It might be a simple thing. You might say, well, who does not do it? But sometimes we should check if we have ancestors, mostly parents and grandparents, because it's hard to know beyond that, to see what disease they have. Not just cancer, but what diseases. Because most likely something that your ancestor had, you are going to end up having. And then it's good to have this thing. And I keep track of that. And like in my family, diabetes is a mess. My grandfather had diabetes. My father has diabetes. From my father's side, all uncles had diabetes. And but there was a difference. I don't have diabetes, and I am getting a little older. And my wife got diabetes, and she does not have the genetics. I'm sure I have. So I believe in lifestyle, and I know I will have, but lifestyle will help you to postpone this once you are. And I know about that because my grandfather, he died with 86 years old. He used to live in the farm. He used to eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. He was not vegetarian, but he was very active. Active, always moving. This was my grandfather. When he died, he went to the hospital. They did a blood test. They figured out he had diabetes with 86 years old, and then he was gone. My father, he died with 65 years old, 21 years difference. But my father, he left the church, and then he started smoking, he started drinking, he started eating pork meat, he was obese. He didn't do exercise. He left the farm, moved to the city, and then when the disease showed in his body, he became blind 2 years before he died, and then had a leg amputation, and then was gone. It's sad to say this, but 21 years of difference. My father could be still alive today, but lifestyle is lifestyle, even for those that have the genetics, because some people say, well, I cannot do anything, it's in my genes. Well, I mean, because it is in your genes, that's why you have to do something, and will help you to prevent. With cancer, most of the time, cancer has a big genetic influence, but lifestyle is still more important. And I will, before I go there, I'm going to just show you one statistics. Prostate cancer is very rare in Africa. It's a low level among Africans that live in Africa. Then the Africans came to the United States because of the slavery, because of what? And now in the United States, African Americans have the highest incidence of prostate cancer in the country. And say, okay, what is that? Is people say are genetic? Yeah, but genetic, but in Africa they don't have it. And then here they have it. Well, it's because whatever, it's slavery and the pressures. And for me, it's lifestyle. For me, it's clear. Let's go to the breast cancer in Asia. They don't have breast cancer in China. Mostly in the part of China, the western China that is mostly rural. breast cancer, they eat soybeans there and tofu and whatever, and they don't have breast cancer. And then when the Chinese come here, they start having breast cancer at the same level as we have, or the women have. So is it genetic? Again, if it is genetic, might be okay, but there is a lifestyle component, and that's why we have to pay attention to what we live. Almost 20 million new cases of cancer in 2020, and then they said that it's going to go in about 30 million in the world, new cases in the world by 2040. Is the second leading cause of death. What is the first cause of death in the world? Heart disease, yeah, heart disease. And then the most common cancer is breast cancer, and then has a larger increase in transitioning countries. What are transitioning countries? Anybody? The countries that are developing, like Brazil. I'm from Brazil. Brazil is a transitioning country. Is getting out of agriculture, getting into industrialization, getting into computerization, and then they consider transitioning countries. When a country transition from agriculture to industry and to modern technology, the diseases follow that. In agricultural times, they have more infectious disease, more contamination, more epidemics. Then when they start transition, then comes diabetes, hypertension, and then cancer. And then when they are in the middle, when they are in the upper level, as we have in the United States, we have most of the diseases are related to lifestyle, to our style. Because what happened in this transition is that we develop modernization so people can work without doing any movement. So remember, we were made with legs and joints and muscles and nerves to be in movement. And now we sit. The only movement is this. And then they are saying now that there is a way to put some electrodes here in the brain, and then you think and the computer does the thing. So what kind of a movement are we going to do? And together with the lack of movement, it came the richness of the food. The most developed, the most amount of fast foods, the lower the price of fast foods. In Brazil, we are in transition because to go to McDonald's, it's something very, very high level. It's not something cheap to go to McDonald's. So it still is better to stay home and cook your rice and beans than to go to McDonald's and pay for a hamburger that might be too much for their economy. In that case, that's why they are in transition. As soon as the industrialization gets up, the price goes down, and then they will have this rich food without any movement. So those are the main causes of the diseases that we see today. Another problem with transition countries is that they still have the infectious disease. And then now they have the burden of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. So they have double burdens of disease. Still malaria is present. Still yellow fever and other diseases that are transmitted by mosquitoes and by lack of sanitation, and then they have the chronic disease on top. The main cause of death by cancer is the lungs, then the second is colon or intestine, and then liver cancer, stomach, and breast cancer. Usually, the cancers are divided by countries also. If you live in a place like the United States, Here we have lung cancer, we have colorectal cancer, and breast cancer. Liver and stomach cancer are not very common in the United States or in the Western countries because they are related to microorganisms. Like liver cancer is related to aflatoxin that is produced by a fungus that goes in the grains that are not stored properly. Stomach cancer is caused by a bacteria called Helicobacter pylori that is also frequent in foods that are kept out of the refrigerator for long. So they might not even have refrigeration, and this bacteria develops on this environment. And that's why they are not common in our country, but in many other countries they are. So two types of cancer, ones that are related to some virus or bacteria that are not common here, and then the ones that are related more to our lifestyle. I will skip this one, new cancer cases, and just to mention here that you cannot see very well, but the most common cancers are breast, prostate, and lung. But the ones that really kill you is the lung, the colon, and the pancreas. Prostate is not in the most killer ones, so fortunately for us men. For women, breast is the most common cancer and is in number 4 here. The worst is pancreas, because pancreas is really a silent disease. You don't feel anything. When you feel something, it's stage 4 already. Cancer has 4 stages in general. One is local. Second is still local, but it gets some tissues around. The third stage is already in circulation, moving to other organs. And the fourth is the spread across the body in distant organs and create other tumors in what we call metastasis. So most of cancer, pancreas cancer, when they are found, it is stage 4. This is the perspective of cancers that is going to happen in 2050. The perspective is that most of cancer will increase, with exception of these ones, colon of the uterus, colon of cervix, larynx, and Hodgkin lymphoma. But most of them are increasing. Even lung cancer, but lung cancer not much, because we are smoking much less nowadays. In the United States, it's less than 10% of people is smoking, so that's a good statistic. So people are smoking less. That favored to have less lung cancer. However, women are smoking more. Children are with this vaping now, and minorities are smoking. African Americans and Hispanics are smoking more. So this is not good. So in general, we are smoking less, but it looks like some classes, some different cultures are more open for smoking, and this is not good. On the other hand, in the world, we are smoking less here, but some transition countries are still with high level of smoking on them, on their area. 1/3 of the most common cancers could be prevented by diet, weight, and physical activity, and this is the one that I'm going to show you. Most of what I'm going to show you here is from the World Cancer Research Fund. It's an entity that creates a book of cancer prevention. You can visit their website and acquire the book if you want. It's World Cancer Research Fund. And what they did is that they coordinate a group of 10,000 researchers. Thousands, I don't know if it's 10,000, but thousands of researchers. and then they scrutinize every single cancer and then compare with the statistics around the globe to see if there is a proof that this cancer was related to that habit or not. So these are conclusions that they got to find, and I believe they will find more in the future. But what I'm going to show you are things that are very, very much likely to be for sure, for true. So it's not something that, well, maybe, but some things that we know together today. Okay, the major findings that they did on this World Cancer Research Fund was that whole grains decrease the risk of intestinal cancer, colon cancer. Then foods that have fiber have less colorectal cancer. Can you tell me what foods we are talking about? What are the foods that are rich in fiber? Vegetables, fruits, roughage, beans. Who said beans? My friend, thumbs up. Legumes and beans or pulses. I used to do a lecture in Hong Kong, and then I said the 3 most important foods for health is beans, legumes, and pulses. And people say, what? So you don't know what pulses are, but pulses are the British word for legumes, for beans. Legumes are beans, and beans are beans. So the 3 main sources of foods are beans. So I am, they call in Loma Linda Dr. Bean. They call me Dr. Bean because I push a lot on that. And but there are other things, whole grains. I mean, all whole grains, oatmeal are rich in fiber. The roots, I mean, sweet potato and other roots are rich. The nuts are rich in fiber. The champions, though, is the beans. First the beans, then avocado is very rich in fiber, and then blackberries, blueberries, all the small berries, strawberries, very rich in fiber. And so those are the main source of fiber that you can find. What they found is that beta-carotene in food or supplements not related to prostate cancer as they thought. And then they mentioned about aflatoxins that I told you. And then salting and preservers, preserved foods like pickles and things like that might increase the risk of stomach cancer. But again, stomach cancer is not common in our midst, so maybe you don't need to be worried about that. The main problem here is not vegetables being salted, but fish being salted. It looks like the process of conserving the fish with salt, it creates nitrosamines that are substances very, very dangerous for the stomach. Meat, fish, dairy, and cancer risk. They could not find anything on dairy and fish around the world, but they found about red meat. Increased risk of colorectal cancer, and processed meats increase the risk of colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer, by the way, is becoming the 2nd most important cancer. In the world, it's going to be for male, prostate cancer, colorectal cancer. For female, breast cancer, colorectal cancer is becoming one of the most common cancers, and is related in great part for lack of fruits and vegetables and lack of fiber, and the presence of red meat, as you see here, related to this cancer. Then the Cantonese-style salted fish increase the risk of nasopharyngeal cancer, and then dairy products decrease the risk of colorectal cancer. You might say, okay, that's good for is good for prevention. So let's charge on milk and dairy. The problem is that milk and dairy, it might be related to prostate cancer. Not completely concluded on that. So in that case, it's only good for women to prevent colorectal cancer, but not for men. Anyways, this is something that they don't have an answer today. This is Joe Wellner's friend, Bob Wellness. You don't smoke, you don't drink booze, coffee, or sodas. Don't eat meat, don't lie, don't cheat, don't go to church on Sundays. What is wrong with you? So there is an evidence about arsenic in drinking water that can increase the lung cancer, bladder cancer, and skin cancer. And then you might say, who is going to drink water with arsenic? But the thing is that this is in countries that the water is contaminated by arsenic. There is places that industrialization produce that, and there is places with natural source of arsenic. And that could be increasing the risk of this cancer. It is not the case, as I know, in the United States. Mate in South America is related to esophagus cancer, and coffee decreases the risk of liver and endometrial cancer. Let's talk about mate first. I mean, I'm not sure if any South American here, but this is what they drink in my country. I am from south of Brazil, the gauchos, and they drink the mate that is produced by a process of drying the leaves, and mostly they drink that with a straw that is a metal straw. So it's very hot, and people that are used to that, they burn their throat all the time. And this constantly burning is the one that can cause the cancer. And there is also a suspicion that when they dry the leaves of mate, they produce a substance called benzopyrene. That is the same substance that we have in cigarette smoking, and is the same substance that we have in barbecuing meats. So we just ended up with the 4th of July with our hot dogs and barbecues. But the barbecue meat, that meat that has this darkened crust, that's the benzopyrene crust. So when the meat drops some of their fat in the braziers, and that fat is burned, it produces a substance called benzopyrene. And then this substance impregnates the meat, and we like to eat that meat that is a little toasted, but that's the dangerous one. So if you want to stop smoking, you better stop eating barbecued meats. I was in Argentina one time, and I saw that the Argentinians, they didn't allow the meat to drop directly on the braise. They put the sticks with meat on the side, and they get heat. They kind of bake, but the fat does not touch the braise and does not produce that smoke. And then I say, that's the way that you could prevent that thing. Even though there are other substances that can be produced, like the nitrosamines. If you overheat any meat, you can produce nitrosamines. But for years, people were telling me during my lectures that I know how to teach the right way to barbecue meats. And that's not my main objective. Okay, question?
The last slide here is that coffee increases the risk of lubricants or decreases?
Yeah, I know you are going to ask that, but is the decrease. So coffee is taking. That's what I mentioned this morning, that I'm going to be the only one alone to talk against coffee. In the last conference of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, There was a doctor from Harvard, Dr. Frank Hu, that said, "Did you drink your coffee today?" And so all the students and the doctors, yes, yes, yes. And I say, "I don't drink coffee." "You should," he said to everyone, "because coffee is proved to increase longevity, decrease the risk of cancer, increase happiness, and well, he didn't mention about sleep, because coffee will block your sleep. But the research is saying that in this case, coffee decreases the risk of these cancers. It's very complicated to make research on coffee, because with the exception of the Seventh-day Adventists, most of people drink coffee. Coffee is the most drunk beverage in the world. So it's hard to compare a million of people with 1,000 people that don't drink, to make a point for that. And so I believe with time, because in the Adventist health study, coffee increased the risk of some cancers. In the Adventist health study, that was just Adventists and Adventists, the ones that drink coffee, the ones that don't drink coffee. And so there is evidence there. But the world in general is in favor of coffee, okay? I'm sorry, but that's what they say. And that's what they are finding now. But that's what I mentioned in the morning, a lot of problems with caffeine, because caffeine is a drug, and a drug can be good. Like one drug that helps on colon cancer is aspirin. If you eat an aspirin, you have a lower risk of colon cancer too. Should I advise my clients to eat aspirin every day? Well, it might be good for the heart too. So the two main causes of, but you might be careful, because it might increase your risk of bleeding, and stomach bleeding. It might be a problem there. On the other hand, there was a research that was made a few years ago, and they compare people that eat a lot of vegetables, and then they check their level of acetylsalicylic acid. And they figured out that people that eat a lot of vegetables, they have higher level of acetylsalicylic acid, similar to taking one pill of 85 milligrams of aspirin per day. That is the level that they advise for prevention. And then I was thinking, you better eat more vegetables, and you might have this natural element being balanced, and then you don't have the risk of bleeding as you have with one pill. Anyways, at the end we can talk more about that. Alcohol is a problem. Increase the risk of mouth, pharynx, larynx, esophagus cancer, and breast cancer. There are two types of breast cancer: pre and post menopause. The premenopause breast cancer is more aggressive. So women that have breast cancer before the menopause, before the 50 years old, 40 and 50 years old, they are more likely to have a more aggressive disease. It's not that common on that age. It's more common after menopause, but it's more aggressive. And then that's why alcohol will affect both pre and post menopause breast cancer. Also is related to colon cancer. 2 or more alcoholic drinks a day, 30 grams or more, increase the risk of colon cancer. So, as I mentioned in the morning, ethanol has a property of causing a mutation, and you don't want anything that causes a mutation to be in your system. And this is by the CDC, the Center for Disease Control in the United States, saying that the less alcohol you drink, the lower your risk of cancer. So it's enough for me, because people say, well, a little bit is not going to be harmful. Well, but I made this experiment. You put this a cup of water, and you put just a little drop of strychnine on that. It's not going to kill you. But why are you going to drink that water? with 1 drop of strychnine. It's crazy, huh? But people do with alcohol, and they consider us to be crazy. Hey, you don't drink? What's going on with you? And they are drinking this cup of poison, poison themselves in the long run with small dose. I didn't know you drank alcohol, Joe. Root beer. Alcohol only gets outside of my body. By the way, alcohol outside is okay. You can sanitize your hands and things like that. Physical activity, and then we have something good here. If you are physical active, you decrease the risk of colon cancer, breast cancer, and uterus cancer, or endometrial cancer. Vigorous physical activity will decrease the risk of breast cancer for women. So, in general, this is one factor that might be related to one thing that I'm going to mention in the next slide: obesity. That's the main problem here. Our world is becoming heavier. 2 billion adults are living with overweight and obesity. So there are more people now with overweight and obesity than underweight and starvation in the world. Meaning that we have enough food to feed the whole world. There is no reason for people to starve in countries or even in our country, because food is in superávit here. 800 million are living with obesity. The research is saying that there is a connection between obesity and cancers. So what is the mechanism? We don't know very clear the mechanism. But it can be that if you have surplus of energy in your body, you are kind of offering more substrate for the cancer cells to thrive. That's one mechanism. The second mechanism could be that there is more inflammation. Now we are thinking about cancer and heart disease and diabetes with inflammation mechanisms. So if you have more fat around your belly, you produce inflammatory substance like tumor necrosis alpha, interleukin 6, CRP proteins that are inflammatory agents. And these inflammatory agents can be a substrate. Maybe don't cause the mutation, but they can drive your cells to grow. And that's why maybe obesity is related to this. And then I like this slide here, the theory of the involution, not the evolution. Because it looks like we came from a, if they believe that we came from the monkey, we are becoming an elephant in our evolution theory. So, sorry about that. I should not put those things there because some people criticize me. Hey, you don't make fun of this. Because I was fat. I am still fat, but I was, when I was a kid, I was fat. So, should not make fun of this because it's a situation. But here is the list of cancers related to overweight and obesity. It starts with mouth, pharynx, larynx, esophagus, stomach, pancreas, gallbladder, liver disease, colon rectal cancer, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, endometrial cancer, prostate cancer, kidney cancer. The only cancer that we for sure is not related to obesity is lung cancer, because lung cancer is related to smoking. But what is happening here is that obesity is becoming the second smoking. Not sure if you got very well, but the second cause of cancer, or the main cause of cancer, is turning to be obesity than what it was with smoking. So we have to be careful about that, and we have to do something about that, because this is not by chance that is developing. And here we have a map of the areas of that are affecting even meningioma cancer, brain cancer are related to that, thyroid cancer, and other cancers are related. Some of them are related because of physical mechanisms, like the esophagus cancer. There are two types of esophagus cancer, one that is upper and another that is lower. The upper is related to smoking, is related to alcohol, things that affect the first third of the esophagus. The second is lower base of the esophagus that is created by a pressure. If a person has an abdominal too big, it will make a pressure from the stomach up, throwing the juices from the stomach in the esophagus. Is a physical component that this will make this pressure, create a esophagitis of reflux that we call. There is Barrett esophagus is one of the things. And then this constant flow or reflux of the juices from the stomach in the esophagus will cause a constant irritation, increase the risk of esophagus cancer, but very close to the stomach. So just for you, it is not a biochemical thing, it's a physical thing that is causing that. Well, it's biochemical because it throws the juices that should not be there. Another point here is that most of the women cancer are related to weight. And this is because once you have more fat in your body, you produce more of the women's or estrogen, that is the women's hormone. And so that's a concern. Do you know that once a woman gets to menopause, that is the time that the ovaries stop working and producing the estrogen, and then the tissues that are becoming producer of these hormones to maintain a woman with a normal balanced life is the fat in the subcutaneous and visceral fat. So if you have an excess on that, even if you enter menopause, you are still producing this estrogen, and estrogen is the main trigger for breast cancer, for ovary cancer, for fallopian tubes cancer, and some uterus cancer also that are related, that are the women's type of cancers. Going to the gym, Joe. Not really. I'm doing some empathy here. I just want to see how you feel carrying 40 pounds extra weight. It's supposed to be a joke here, okay? Okay, now we are going to finish with the 4 or 3 major cancer and what are the risk factors and protective factors. Prostate cancer, as you get older, you get more, is more common in African Americans, is related to genetics too. By the way, if your mother had premenopausal breast cancer and is related to a genetic marker like BRCA1 and BRCA2, you, as a son, might have a higher risk of it. And the other way around, if you are a man and you have BRCA1 and BRCA2 positive, your daughter can have a risk of breast cancer because she does not have a prostate, okay? And then that's why there is some crossover genetic markers there. Obesity is a factor for prostate cancer. And again, dairy and calcium, they are still pending on this definition, if it is or not. So, but if you have a risk, you better go low on that. Alcohol and smoking is related. Agent Orange and prostatitis are kind of borderline there, but not very well defined. I have a friend who died with prostate cancer, and he went to Vietnam, and he was exposed to Agent Orange, and I talked to his wife, and they blamed the thing on that. And then I was thinking, well, one point here that we have to understand is that when you add all of those things, you have multiple factors. I believe we cannot identify just one factor for cancer, as we cannot identify just one factor for longevity or for heart disease or for diabetes. It's a combination. It's a lifestyle, bad or good, that we have to consider. So if you want to change, you better change more things in your life that are important, and not just focus on, I'm not going to, if Agent Orange was a problem, I will never exposed to that. Of course, you are not going to be exposed to that, but the family blame on Agent Orange, on this guy, on this friend of mine. But he was obese, he had hypertension, he was with a bunch of drugs, and he was, so I believe it was not just Agent Orange. It was a combination of factors, and for sure obesity was one of them. Then the protective factors. I mean, the vegans have a lower risk of prostate cancer. I mentioned this. In the Adventist health study, vegans are the best way to overcome the cancer. Fruits and vegetables, less fatty foods, exercise, weight management, stop smoking and drinking, and doing the PSA. At least you should do the PSA once in a while to know your levels. There is a big discussion. Doctors are not prescribing this PSA test anymore. That is a simple test. I advise that male should have at least should know your background when you are 30 and 40 years old, to know that what are your levels. Because one of the things is that, first, I never seen anybody with prostate cancer that was not diagnosed because of PSA. I haven't seen. Second is that you might have a normal PSA, but once in a while you can have a peak, and that's the problem. And that's why we are looking for it. You know your levels. Every 5 years, then you can do a test and check for that. If you are African American, I would advise to do PSA every year. So, period. Because the risk is high there. Let's move to breast cancer. Age, 2/3 of them are after 55, I mentioned. Most of them are after menopause. Use the contraceptives or menopausal hormones can increase the risk of breast cancer. Alcohol, being obese, radiation, the genetic marker, BRCA1 and 2. Last time I gave a lecture on that thing, I was in Dresden Center. The lady raised her hands and she said, I was negative for BRCA1 and BRCA2, and my daughter had the bilateral, and she had breast cancer, and her daughter has a bilateral breast cancer. She has to remove everything. And she said, and it was not genetic. Well, it might not be genetic, but don't just base your life on markers, because we are starting to develop that. And by the way, there are other markers, not just BRCA1 and BRCA2. There are other genetic markers for breast cancer that might run in families. So if you have a Jewish heritage, you are a little higher risk of breast cancer than the normal population. You know that. I mean, what's the name of the artist? That did bilateral mastectomy. Anybody know? She was BRCA1 positive, and Brad Pitt's wife. What's her name? Angelina Jolie. Yeah, and she has some. I believe she has some Jewish heritage, but she did that, and she is concerned. Okay, Caucasians are more to have that, and then this thing here, early menarche and late menopause. So what happened is that they say that estrogen is the hormone. And then once you start your your menarche or your menstruation period early in life, and then you have a menopause that starts late in life, you have an exposure to female hormone for a longer time. So your risk of breast cancer is higher than if you have menarche like in the 1800s. In the 1900s, the menarche used to start with 17, 18 years old. My granddaughter, with 12 years old, is having her first period. To see what is the change. So somehow, I don't know if this is just food. It might be also the sex revolution, whatever you call, that is making these kids to have more advanced maturation in their life. I don't know. But what happened is that they are having early menarches, and then the exposure is going to be bigger. Also, if the wife does not have children, so is exposed more to estrogen alone. If the wife does not breastfeed, also he has more risk of estrogen being there. And then if they get married and then have kids later in life, increase the risk of breast cancer too. See? So all of these are important. I'm not sure if you can do anything. Maybe some of you are young enough to know about that. Some of us cannot do anything anymore. But those are the things about that. What can be protective factors? Healthy diet, stop drinking, exercise, weight management, clinical breast examination, breastfeeding, self-examination, mammograms, and genetic markers. So we have another problem here with self-examination, because most of the doctors are saying, yeah, you don't know anything about breast, so it doesn't help you to do self-examining yourself. I still believe that is important. I remember when we went to health fairs, we have a breast made by plastic, and the women go there until find the tumor there. Whatever it is, I believe you should be comfortable in knowing the texture of your breast to know if there is some changes. So I don't think it's a problem to do that, and I believe that we should still do that in the community and teach the ladies to do that, because they said, well, you do the clinical breast examination, ask your doctor to do that. And I did that. My wife went to the doctor, and the doctor, her doctor never touched her, because doctors are not touching anymore. They are just, well, mammogram, x-rays, and do these blood tests, and that's it. And nobody was checking her breast to see if there is any nodule there. And also it's very complicated, because if the doctor is not used to your breast, they might not figure it out if this is just a scar, or this is something that you have since you were born, or something that is new. So I will advise you to get to your doctor, to get to your provider, and ask for some instructions how to do that. And again, I am against the current, because people are saying don't worry about that. But I believe it's still important. Colon cancer, risk factors: obesity, smoking, alcohol, polyps, diabetes, family history, bowel inflammation, red meats and processed meats. In this cancer, I believe one of the main problems here is the lack of screenings. That's why people are dying from colon cancer. We should not be dying from colon cancer if you do a colonoscopy. But people don't want to do a colonoscopy. I have a friend who went to the VA one time, and they took 2/3 of his colon. And then I went to visit with him. And he knew, that I was in this. And then I asked him, have you done a colonoscopy ever? I said, no. I'm sorry, Dr. Dos Santos. I said, well, you don't need to apologize for me. I didn't do anything, and you didn't do anything to me. You did do something to you, because lack of colonoscopy led you to do this now. You could have a polyp, and the polyp, by the way, is not a benign. If you have a polyp in the intestine, is a malign one, has to be taken off. And that's why colonoscopy is good. If you don't have access to colonoscopy, you don't have insurance, if it's complicated for you, at least you do this stool test that now is kind of 95% accurate to detect cancer cells in your stools. The Cologuard is one of the names. So I don't have any royalties. I don't gain any money with anybody that I say here, okay? Don't take me wrong. If I mention Cologuard, it's because I watch on TV. It's just one name. There are other types of the same thing. But what I'm saying is that we should check for that, both men and women. Again, this is becoming the second cause of cancer deaths in the world, and in our country is very common. So we should check on that to get this cancer, because the best treatment for cancer, so if you don't hear anything here that I said, the best treatment for cancer is called early detection. The best treatment for cancer is early detection. Then you know as soon as you can, and what you can do when the cancer is localized and you don't have a problem. Okay, protective factors for colon cancer. Exercise, I already mentioned that, weight management, plant-based diets, fiber, aspirin, hormone therapy. Somehow you don't want to use hormone therapy for one cancer that will cause another cancer. By the way, most of the hormones are cancer producers, so maybe you should not get into that. By the way, if you have diabetes, you have a higher risk of cancer because of insulin. Insulin is a cancer enhancer. We have two types of substance. We have cancer mutation and cancer promoter, or cancer enhancer. So for you to have cancer, you have to have those two factors. One is an alteration of the DNA of the cell, and then the cell gets crazy. But if you don't have the promoters, this cell will be destroyed. Or if your immune system is not working, this cell will be destroyed. But if you have the two, and that's what happened with smoking. Smoking has substance that cause the mutation, and then has substance that will guarantee that this mutated cell will grow and multiply. And that's what we talk about, the second element for cancer to develop. Maybe I already mentioned many of those things here, and I'll mention the last one is skin cancer. More common in white skin, sunshine is to be blamed. Depends on the type of, the time of exposure. Skin burning is the thing that we should avoid. Most cancers in the skin are in this area. So if you have any risk, you should wear a hat, and you are safe with that. But there is a big discussion. People say, okay, because of lack of vitamin D, you increase the risk of cancer too. And people say, okay, cancer is produced, because of ultraviolet rays. Because in the skin, they produce mutations. We know that UR produce mutations. And then you are afraid of that. But if you have a lower level of vitamin D, you will have not only mutations in the skin, but you have risk of cancer in several other organs. And then you have to balance. What I tell my clients is, okay, wear a hat, protect your face, but expose your arms and legs to the sun, periodically. Maybe not at 12 o'clock, 12 p.m., because then you're going to have a burn. Avoid get burned, because when you get burned, you have a mutation or risk of mutation from UR, from ultraviolet rays. So UVR, I should be saying, sorry. And then avoid being burned. So this idea that you stay there and like a pollo loco, sorry, like a chicken being baked in the sun, you are in trouble for that. So that is not a good idea. But being in movement and not in the time that the sun is vertical on you is okay. Dr. D told me about sun and skin cancer, but I need vitamin D. I hope my finger can get it. Maybe not, huh, Joel? Okay, this is a summary of what I said. These are the cancers. This is the activities and things that might decrease the risk. All of these one here, physical activity, walking, Mediterranean diet, vigorous physical activity, breastfeeding, fiber. And then when you go here, those are the ones that probably make, but the suggestion is not there. And this is the things that cause cancer that we know. One thing here that I didn't mention is growing. If it looks like the ones that are taller have a higher risk of cancer than people that are short, interestingly, huh? And then growing, the rates of growing also might be an effect. So if a child grows too fast, it means that he is feeding cancer cells. And you might say, well, how can I hold that? I believe the growing here, my opinion, is related to what kind of food is producing this growth. If it is a diet rich in sugar and fat, that's the diet that the cell cancers like. So you are feeding something to kids that will you end up in feeding cancer cells instead of just feeding yourself. So you have here adult body fatness, adult height is still playing there, but is related to breastfeed and pre and post breast cancer. So those are the things that we should be concerned with our children, is that children need to have a little more calories than ourselves. But if they are growing too fast and they are growing more horizontally than vertically, we have to pay attention, because then they will incur in all the risks that we are talking about. So, wrapping up, be with a healthy weight, be physical active, eat a better diet with whole grains, vegetables, fruits, beans in your diet. Limit fast foods, low consumption of fats and sugary things. Limit bread and processed meat. Cut down on sugary drinks. Another joke. The only difference is that we season our veggies. Maybe we need to eat like a rabbit. Not totally, but almost there. Limit alcohol consumption. For cancer, you better not drink. Do not use supplements. Well, they did one test for lung cancer, and that the participants were taking beta-carotene pills. And at the middle of the study, the pills were increasing the risk of lung cancer. They stopped the study, and they are advising, hey, supplements, be careful with supplements, because there is no proof that they are good, and maybe they might be harmful. Breastfeed your baby, or breastfeed is good for both baby and mother. And then for cancer survivors, follow the same advice that we are promoting here. And then the other ones is related to the recommendations that we mentioned. This is what I just said, and that's the last message here. Who believe in me in him should not perish but have eternal life. Cancer is a complicated disease. So sometimes a person is vegetarian and vegan and have everything good, and then end up with cancer. And what we see here, the evidence here is for thousands of people. So it's not saying here that all people that don't eat meat will never have cancer. As people that don't smoke will never have cancer. We cannot say those things because it's a risk. It's a lower risk, but there is a risk. So if among people that don't smoke, they have a risk of lung cancer, maybe 50%. I'm not having the absolute rates here, but the ones that smoke have a risk of 90%, so there is a big difference, 40% difference. Ooh, huh? But then a person in those 50% die from lung cancer. Oh, this guy never smoked. This guy never goes to a place close to someone that smoked and died with lung cancer. How can that be, Lord? And blame everyone about that. But you have to understand that is a lower risk, but we live in a country, we live in a world that is contaminated, as I mentioned in the beginning. Our food is not perfect. Our air is not perfect. Our soil is not perfect. Our water is not perfect. So we have so many other factors that we even don't know. We can do whatever we can do. What is beyond our strength is not for us to do. Boy, I think I passed the time, huh? I'm done with that, so thank you very much. Oh, we have a music. Sorry about that. I have a song to finish this. This is the lifestyle song. It's different than the one that you sang in the morning. Today I'm gonna be a healthy person, wise. Today I'm gonna change my life, my diet and exercise. Let's go together. Today I'm gonna be a healthy person, wise. Today I'm gonna change my life, my diet and exercise. No more cancer, no more heart diseases. I'm gonna be a healthy person, wise. No high blood pressure, neither diabetes. I'm gonna change my diet and exercise today. Today I'm gonna be a healthy person, wise. Today I'm gonna change my life, my diet and exercise. I'll eat my fruits with my beans and veggies. I'm gonna be a healthy person, wise. I drink more water and have no more stress. I'm gonna change my diet and exercise today. Today I'm gonna be a healthy person, wise. Today I'm gonna change my life, my diet and exercise. Okay, guys, you have some questions.
I think some of you know someone close to me died last year, and she was vegan and lived kind of like a nature path lifestyle, but she she had Ambien for about 23 years, and she lived in a moldy environment. So the Ambien and the mold took her life. So, and on the side effects of Ambien is also chronic fatigue, which she had, cancer, which she had, and another side effect is death, which she got. And so, but I think the mold was, I think it was 50-50 partnership there.
I am very, when people ask me about that, I said, avoid pills as much as you can. And I do so. I never take any pills for pain, for things like that. I let the thing go. And it's hard sometimes, but we Americans, I consider myself American, we get used to suppress anything that is symptomatic. The problem is that when we do so, we ended up suppressing the immune system. You know, we have natural killer cells that are cells from our immune system that kill cancer cells. So once we start getting rid of any symptom that happened to us, we are suppressing those elements too, and this might be another factor. Remember, I mentioned about several factors, adding things together, and then adding to our composition. So what we inherit from our parents in terms of energy, in terms of structure to face disease. Each one of us inherit these from the parents. But anyways, you didn't ask a question, so thank you for what you mentioned.
I have a question about bioidentical hormones. You said that hormones promote cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So what about the bioidentical ones? Bioidentical hormones?
Yeah, that's a big discussion in medicine. The bioidentical hormones are bioidentical hormones. Meaning that they might not have any advantage in terms of hormone protection. The only one is the one that we call phytoestrogen, that is from soy, and people are afraid of the soybeans because, it's a hormone. But the phytoestrogen in soybean, they occupy the receptors in the breast and in the ovaries, and will not allow the other hormones to act upon it, and so will protect the breast to not develop cancer. So using the bioidentical hormones that are produced by yams, by other substances, if they have the constitution of the same structure, chemical structure of hormone, they are considered the same with the same effects. That's my opinion. So it's not any advantage to use estradiol that is your body producing, estradiol that's a pharmacy produced, and estradiol that is produced by vegetables or substance. There is no much difference on that. That's my opinion. You can kill me for that, but that's what until I go on that, I discussed this with a chemistry guy, and he said, once the formula is the same. It's just a source that is different, but the effects will be the same.
At what age should you stop taking a colonoscopy test?
Oh, I have a hard time to listen.
No, at what age should you stop taking a colonoscopy test?
At what age? Stop doing colonoscopy.
The colonoscopy?
Yeah.
I think we should not stop. We should not stop taking the test. I believe the test is, as long as you are alive, I would advise to take the test. The only thing is that if you have a risk, if you have a polyp, then you might need to go between 3 to 5 years. If you don't have anything, they prolong this to 10 years. You didn't have that. If you survive the next 10 years, you do another one. Otherwise, you don't do. Did you get what I mean? No?
My doctor stopped me at a certain time.
Yeah, and this is a very controversial topic. If I were your doctor, I would not stop. I mean, if you visit another doctor, he might give you some other. You are putting me in the spot here. Man.
I believe she's asking about colonoscopy. The problem with, I agree with you that we should do a young physician, surgeon. I used to operate colon cancer. But I think as long as I am healthy and I can, I will go for the colonoscopy. The problem is the insurance company, after 80 years of age, don't want to expend the money in doing the colonoscopy. This is the problem. The government has some rules. Now you can afford and pay your own, then you can have your colonoscopy. It's a good way to prevent colon cancer.
As the disease is becoming more common,
Yeah.
but I think it's unethical to say, okay, man, you're going to die in a few years, so you don't need the test. So, come on.
This is the way it goes.
You have to provide whatever care we have, but our system is based on money. You know that, unfortunately.
Hi, Dr. Dos Santos. On your slides, you were showing the beta-carotene for cancer prevention. If you take, instead of the beta-carotene as a cancer prevention in dietary supplement, what about the alternative of taking a natural supplement named lipocarotene? Is it a good idea to take that?
Well, supplements were not proven to be advantageous for any cancer. So people are now using the carotene might be lycopene plus beta-carotene. Lycopene that's the red part of tomatoes and watermelon, and they really have a protection against some of the cancers. I have a friend who did a research with lycopene and breast cancer cells and really decreased the growth of those cells. But this does not mean that in real life, taking this supplement out of the context of a food will help you. There is no research on that. And I would advise to eat more tomatoes and watermelons and whatever is reddish, beets and things like that, instead of the supplements. Okay? Go ahead.
I do believe that death begins in the colon, and I do believe that if we can eat a diet that cleanses the colon, then that will be a tremendous help. You know, because our diet is, you know, that's what's killing most of Americans, I think.
So what is the diet?
Well, it's what God gave us. I think you were reading it this morning in Genesis. Okay. You know, so I think if we're eating plenty of fiber and sweeping out the colon,
That's it.
That's
That's what we are talking about. But you are getting to the issue in the morning. It's not that the diet will prevent the disease. It's because we get the disease because we follow the wrong diet. So we found a wrong style of living. And now we are putting back the things, and so the risk of those diseases will decrease.
So I have a question with mammogram.
Who is talking?
I am.
Oh.
Right here. So I have a question with mammogram. So if you're, what are your thoughts on it? At a certain age, you're supposed to get it if you're doing the breast self-examination. Because some doctors recommend you should have it, even if you don't detect anything, but I feel like it's too much radiation. So I just wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, depends on, again, on your risk and depends on your doctor, but maybe you don't need to do as frequent as it is. And I believe every woman should have done at least one mammogram after 20 years. And then the doctor will follow, depends on the risk. I mean, they have to check if you, all of these risk factors you put in a composition, and I don't know if doctors do that, but I would do that to say, okay, family risk, I mean, if you have history in the family, if you are overweight, if you have the diet and all of these things, exercise, and put all of these in perspective, and then maybe you have a high risk, and then you have to do more frequent. But doctors in general don't do that because they are not paid to do that, unfortunately. Anything else? We're supposed to have some health assessments, and I have one of my students here. So how many of you are willing to we have a scale, and so how many of you are willing to do that? I mean, so we have a few people. So maybe, well, I will answer one more question, and then we set up that, and then if you have more questions, you can address me individually while we set up, because I don't want to waste the time here for the whole thing, okay?
I've recently been scheduled for age-related colonoscopy, and I've refused that appointment with my physician. My big concern is when you have colonoscopy, you have to take the champagne, the fluid that cleans out your colon and your whole small intestines, and my thought is this is going to get rid of a lot of the friendly bacteria that research now shows you need for good health. So what would be your opinion on this strategy, that a colonoscopy for someone like me that is a vegan, has a very healthy lifestyle, everything you say I follow, so I felt that there's more risk of getting rid of friendly bacteria that is more harmful to my body than taking a colonoscopy. What is your opinion?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure if you got this. And to do a colonoscopy and cleansing your good bacteria in the intestines, is it of a benefit not to do or do it? And so doctors have to balance that, and it's a kind of individual. First of all, I believe the bacteria, you can, if you follow the same diet with what they call prebiotics, that are your diet mostly, will colonize the bacteria again, so you don't eliminate that. The only thing that will eliminate the bacteria completely is a dose of multi-bacterial antibiotic, multi-ample drug that will kill bacteria, then will kill all of them. Just a stomach or an intestine cleansing will not do it, will not be able to kill everything. So I believe in the first part, this is not a problem, it's not a big problem to do this cleansing to your gut, to your bacteria, first. Second, you have to balance the benefits. I would advise to do a Cologuard. That is a simple test that you check your stools. If there is you don't have a risk, you have this negative, you might not need that according to your lifestyle. That's my primary advice. And there is a development of a capsule that they are developing, that you ingest this capsule in fasting, and it gives a map of your it can check your stomach, your esophagus, your stomach. The esophagus not much because it's too fast. go to stomach, duodenum, and all the intestinal, and the ileum and the colon. But this is not available yet. I'm preaching about that capsule for about 10 years that I have the cancer seminars, and it still is not ready for the public to use. But that will solve all of these situations, and then easy for a diagnosis and complete diagnosis, and you don't have to do all of those preparations. Okay?
Okay, before we
So-
go to the next,
Yeah, we are going to set up the
Question.
health assessment.
I
You
would
have
like
tell
to-
me. Oh,
this is a token of our appreciation for you to come and share
Thank you.
your knowledge with us.
thank you very much.
Okay, so now
Appreciate that.
we're going to have the test back here. After
And
we
then
set-
if someone has another question, I can be.
how
answering that.
many table do you need back there? About two?
2 tables is
Okay.
okay. So where you are going to tell me where to go?